Welcome to the final block of your Strength and Power unit of your athletic development program. We're the final block and we're going to talk you through the 5 exercises that we'd like you to do in this phase. Hope you've enjoyed the process so far and that you're enjoying it continually. And even though this is the end of the program, we'd like you to continue this where you see fit in your program. Okay, let's talk you through this is the adult version of the program. Some of the stuff you've done before, some of it's a variation of a similar thing. But it's important that we continue the continuum of strength, and then we're changing up some of the movements to get you stronger in different planes of motion. So the first one here is a step up. Now we'd like you to use a bit of weight on here, so load it up to step up and make sure the height of the box is quite high. We went for a high box the last time. This is still a high box. It's denoted high because you can see here the femur is actually, or the knee is higher than the hip, so that means it's a high box. So kind of have that same thing going on at home. And then once you step up, you make sure you load onto that left side and then stand up onto the box, chest high, looking forward. And on the eccentric phase or on the downward phase, slowly control yourself down to the floor and then back up again. Just make sure some of the falls here is that you push off that right side. You kind of almost a calf raise on the way up. So just make sure that you are loading that left side. And you'll find such a difference in the exercises once you do that. And once you slight shift change onto where the weight is distributed, you find it a lot more challenging on that left side. Select the weight that's appropriate. There is no ego here. It shouldn't be the heaviest weight wins. It just should be the appropriate where you see good mechanics, you get good contraction to the muscle through the system that's working, and that's denoted the best kind of weight for you. Sometimes if it's too heavy, you contribute too much on the right side, and even though it's heavier weight in your hand, it's actually less weight going through or less load going through the body. So again, same thing here, pushing yourself up. A point here on the step up is push to the heel of the foot, right? So that's it's kind of mid foot to back foot. You should be the pressure should go, and just on, so you can see from front on is when I'm step on the box, I'm just shifting my hip to that side that's loaded and then driving myself up, and then again slow down. Repetitions on this exercise are 6, so 6 on each side, and then move on. Next exercise we're going to talk about is thruster. This is a new one, so it's kind of combining some of our squat patterns into a shoulder exercise or a predominantly upper body exercise. So you start with the weight at your shoulders, squat down, so you're squatting back on yourself, weight is onto the heels of the foot, drive it up, and as you come up onto the pressure now into the midfoot and you're pushing over your head, you drive the weights up over your head. So obviously the limitation here is how much weight you can press over your head, but with the momentum you should be able to press normally than you just press statically. So you should be able to press more with a bit more dynamic movement. Down to the floor and pushing back up. And the important thing here is that the hip is going through that deep flexion and into full extension as you come up. So make sure that when you're driving up fully and then you drive up. So you're not pressing from a flex position, you're pressing from an extended position all the way up. Good. And the next sort of lower body strengthening exercise that was combined, but the next lower body is a reverse lunge. So make sure your feet are wider than hip width apart, your toes are pointed forward, and when you step back, you're maintaining that wide base of support, dropping down to the floor and then driving back up. Just make sure you look forward as well on this one. Tendency if I start looking down with the weight, I'm arching my spine, and that affects how I load the hip. Just make sure you're looking forward, nice good posture in the upper half, and then you're dropping back. The reason I like this exercise so much is that there's so much happening at the ankle, the knee and the hip that replicates to your game and running, that it's going to transfer a lot to your performance. And also you're adding some momentum to the movement, but you're taking out the big momentum in lunging forward. Especially with weight, you want to have that controlled momentum, but you want momentum in the exercise. Yeah, and just make sure you have a nice wide base support as you come back. That's kind of everything you need to know there. Make sure you're looking forward, dropping your knee towards the floor, not letting it hit the floor too hard, controlling it as it hits the floor, or as it goes towards the floor. Okay, yep, that's good. Now the next one is going to be a sort of an upper body focus. So again, at home, I want you to decide where this fits in your program. So we have literally on the floor, we have slightly elevated or extremely elevated, I would say, on the rear foot, right? So the position for the extremely elevated will be toes touching the box, and my feet are now elevated up, and now it's creating more of a gravity that I've got to overcome to do the same press up. The lower the box, the easier it becomes. Lower again to the box, easier, or no box or no rear foot elevated, becomes even easier again. And we start with the smallest progression. So if you go on your knees and do the exercise. Now it says 9 reps, and every rep is slightly different. So we want to challenge the upper body to get strong in all planes of motion in different positions, because it's no good in being strong in just one plane or one position. You got to be strong in a lot. So first one is a normal press up, as you would, all the way down, all the way up. The next one, you adjust your hands to go a little bit wider, or as wide as you can. Then you go narrow. So now you go narrow now. So go very narrow. Yeah, and go down. So you will find a weakness in your exercise, and that's a good thing to find out, and where I need to get stronger in, because that positions in the game is going to be where you're going to be weakest at. Where you're stronger at, you'll be strong at, and areas of weakness, it could be an area for your development. So you go really narrow, you go normal, and you go as wide as you can, is the first 3. The fourth one is now we're going to manipulate the up and down. So she's just practicing the first 3. So the fourth one is one hand in front. Any hand, yeah, there we go. So one hand, so it's now a bias in that plane. And now you go down as slow as you can, and then change sides. Number 5, change sides, good. And now, and come back to normal. And now we're going to manipulate the rotational phase. So we internally rotate one, and all the way down, good. Internally rotate the other, all the way down. The last 2 are externally rotate. So externally rotate one, and go down. And externally rotate the other and go down. Now there's so many variations with this. Like this exercise could go on for indefinitely almost, because you got a higher box, you have positions at hand, you can go as wide as you can go slightly wide. I mean, you can manipulate this as many times. Where I'm doing 9 reps and I've showed you some variations there, but you can even go high and internally rotate, high and externally rotate. And the reason why I'm saying all these stuff is not to confuse you, it's just to show you that the utility of this exercise is vast, and it's important that you get strong in so many different planes and not just focus on one. So maybe like a bench press has got good for building capacity, but an exercise like this can just get you strong in planes that you're maybe not as strong in. Okay, last one to do then is our hamstring exercise. So we just grab one dumbbell, and just a little bit of anatomy. You know, we got a hamstrings into the back of the leg. There's 3 hamstrings, right? So there's the lateral one, and there's a couple there's a couple exercises, but typically there's the lateral, medial, and the sort of middle hamstring. And we want to target all 3 on this exercise. So the first rep will be across the body. So you have it, and so if my left foot is forward, just to talk you through the position, toe touch at the back. So that's for support, and be wide enough for support. So it's a challenging. It's not a stability exercise, because you got support with both feet. And if your left foot is forward, your right hand's in contact with the weight. And the first movement is across your body. So cross the foot into an RDL as well. Make sure the RDL pattern comes out, come all the way up. Then you go into a typical RDL. So the front foot is slightly bent. So it's not locked up, it's slightly bent. And then the last one is across here. Now, all the hamstrings are working in each of the exercise, but you're biasing the demand on a different one depending on which hand driver it is. If you think of anatomy, look up a skeleton, look where the hamstring fits, and the different position of the hip is going to load the hamstring slightly differently on each repetition. So you do 3 reps on each side. Make sure you have a good posture when you do it. So make sure your back isn't arching forward. Make sure you maintain, and a light weight will do here, because we're talking about levers, and longer levers create a lot of tension to the hamstring. So okay, it isn't 30 kg and the dumbbell, but that leverage, and that, so look at the leverage here from the hip. That lever that's created there is causing a lot of tension in the hamstring, more than the weight suggests. So that's important to not be clouded by what weight I'm lifting. Is actually the movement and the range and the leverage denote how much load goes through my hamstring. So it's far more than the 5-6 kg that you have in your hand. Okay, so just maintaining a good posture as we come through the movement, left and right. Go across your body. Doesn't matter necessarily which order you do, just make sure you do each repetition. One outside the body, one across the body, and one forward, and make sure you got a good pattern of the spine. Okay, so we have our typical strength exercises like our lunges and our step-ups. We have our thruster, which is kind of new, which is my whole body. We have an upper body challenge, if you like, of different exercises and different planes of motion. And then we have our final hamstring exercise to kind of keep those hamstrings healthy as you're back to training. So it incorporates a lot in this program. Obviously, you have your supportive units as well. But this is the final one. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you really enjoyed the whole process. Get in touch if you have any questions on anything we've touched across the 24 weeks I think we've been doing. But yeah, enjoy these last 3 weeks, and keep your training, keep consistency up even when this ends. Continuing your strength and power development is such an important part of your of your journey, so keep it up. See you again soon.